My dad gave his entire family business to my lazy brother who never worked a day, and when I left, he destroyed our grandfather's legacy in 6 months, bankrupting my parents. I just found out yesterday that my father had secretly changed his will and left everything to my younger brother Jake. I am Alex, 32M, and Jake is 27M. The revelation came during what was supposed to be a routine family meeting about my father's retirement from our family business, a successful chain of auto repair shops that I had practically built from the ground up over the last 12 years. I never imagined that my dedication and hard work would be rewarded with such a betrayal. Our story began with my grandfather, a skilled mechanic who opened a single auto repair shop in 1975. He was my inspiration growing up. I spent countless hours in his shop as a kid, learning about cars and dreaming about running the business someday. When he passed away in 1990, my father took over and managed to expand it to 3 locations by the time I graduated high school. I joined the business straight after high school in 2009. College wasn't really my thing, and honestly, I loved working with cars. My grandfather had taught me the basics, and I was eager to learn more. Jake, my younger brother, was different. He always had our parents wrapped around his finger. While I was learning the trade, Jake was the golden child who could do no wrong. He went to an expensive private college and got a business degree, but never actually worked a real job. Not even a summer internship. From my first day at the shop, I put everything into the business. I worked 60-hour weeks minimum, sometimes even sleeping at the shop when we had big repair jobs that needed to be finished by morning. I learned every aspect of auto repair, studied after hours to get multiple certifications, and eventually became a master mechanic. Under my management, we expanded from 3 to 7 locations across the state. I handled everything from hiring mechanics to dealing with difficult customers, while my father mostly stayed in his office handling the finances. Jake would occasionally show up at family dinners, talking big about his ideas for modernization and expansion, but never actually contributed anything concrete to the business. The favoritism toward Jake was always obvious, but I tried to ignore it. When Jake wrecked his first car at 16, an expensive new model our father had bought him, Dad immediately replaced it with an even newer one. When I needed a car at the same age, I had to work at the shop for 6 months to earn an old fixer-upper. When Jake wanted to go to college, Dad paid for everything: tuition, apartment, spending money, the works. When I mentioned wanting to take some business classes at the local community college, Dad said the shop needed me full-time and couldn't spare me even for evening classes. Despite all this, I stayed because I loved the business. I built relationships with our customers, many of whom would only trust me with their vehicles. I implemented a new inventory system that cut our costs by 30%. I personally trained every mechanic we hired, creating a team that was known for quality work. Our reputation grew so strong that we had to expand just to keep up with demand. Yesterday's meeting was supposed to be about my father's retirement plan. I arrived early, excited even, because I assumed that given my dedication and experience, I would finally be taking over as the main owner. I thought Jake might get some shares, which I was fine with. He was family after all. Instead, my father announced that he was transferring 80% ownership to Jake, with the remaining 20% split between me and my mother. His reasoning left me speechless. According to him, Jake has a business degree and fresh ideas to modernize our operations. Apparently, all my years of actual experience, the relationships I built, the reputation I established, none of that meant anything compared to Jake's theoretical knowledge from his business classes. Jake sat there with this fake humble expression that made my blood boil, talking about how he would make sure I still had a place in the company's future, as if he was doing me a favor. I couldn't hold back. I reminded my father about every sacrifice I made, every Christmas I worked so other employees could be with their families, every weekend I spent under a car instead of having a social life, every time I stayed late to finish a difficult repair because I wouldn't let a customer down. I brought up how I had grown our customer base by 300% and maintained our 5-star rating across all locations. I pointed out how Jake had never even changed a tire in his life, let alone understood what it takes to run an auto repair business. My father's response just showed how little he valued my contribution. He said I was being dramatic and that Jake had the education to take the business to the next level. He said I could keep working as the head mechanic with a good salary, like it was some kind of consolation prize. My mother just sat there silently, eyes down, like she always does when Dad makes these decisions. She's never once stood up for me, not when I was working 60-hour weeks as a teenager, not when Dad refused to help with my education, and not now. Jake then had the nerve to pat my shoulder condescendingly and say we would make a great team, with him handling the business side while I handled the repairs. That was the final straw. I walked out of that meeting and went straight to the main shop. I gathered my tools, the ones I had bought with my own money over the years, the specialized equipment I had carefully collected, and loaded them into my truck. Some of these tools cost thousands of dollars, but they were mine, bought with the money I saved while Jake was spending Dad's money at college. Since then, my phone hasn't stopped buzzing with messages from my parents and Jake. They're all saying I'm overreacting and need to think about the family. My father sent a long text about how I'm being childish and need to accept that times are changing. Jake keeps messaging about how he values my experience and wants to learn from me. But I know it's all lies. He just wants to make sure someone sticks around who actually knows how to run things, someone he can blame when his brilliant ideas inevitably fail. I've already reached out to some industry contacts I've made over the years and have a few job offers lined up. Several competing shops have been trying to hire me for years, and now they're eager to have me. I'm done being the workhorse while Jake gets all the rewards just because he's dad's golden child. I've given 12 years of my life to this business, worked myself to the bone to build it into what it is today, and this is what I get in return. Well, they can have their precious business. Let's see how well Jake's business degree serves him when angry customers start calling about botched repairs. Update 1. It's been 3 weeks since I walked out of the family business, and I want to thank everyone for their overwhelming support on my original post. The messages and advice really helped me stay strong during this difficult time. A lot has happened since then, and the situation has gotten even messier than I imagined it would. After leaving, I took a week to clear my head and consider my options. Several competing businesses reached out with offers, but I chose to accept a position as service manager at Wilson Motors, a large dealership in the neighboring city. The owner, Mr. Wilson, had been trying to hire me for years after seeing how I turned around our family business. The pay is actually 30% better than what I made at our shops, and for the first time in 12 years, I have normal working hours. No more sleeping at the shop or missing holidays. My new boss actually values my experience. When I suggested implementing a new diagnostic system I had researched, he gave me the budget for it immediately. But here's where things get interesting. About a week after I left, my phone started blowing up with calls from our old customers. At first, I ignored them, not wanting to get involved. But then Mrs. Chen called. She's been bringing her family's cars to us since my grandfather's time. She was almost in tears explaining how her car had been damaged during a simple oil change at our old shop. Turns out, Jake's big modernization plan involved firing most of our experienced mechanics, including Tom who'd been with us for 15 years, and replacing them with fresh graduates who would work for minimum wage. Jake also implemented a new computerized booking system without any backup plan. According to Mrs. Chen, the system double books appointments constantly, leading to hours-long waits. Even worse, they lost all the service histories we had carefully maintained over the years. These records were crucial because they helped us anticipate problems specific to each vehicle. Several of our loyal customers have now followed me to Wilson Motors, not because I poached them, but because they trust me with their vehicles. The situation really blew up yesterday when my father called. I thought maybe he was finally going to apologize, but no, he demanded I hand over my personal customer contact list and come in to train the new mechanics before they lose more business. He acted like I owed them this, completely ignoring how they had pushed me out. I refused, explaining that these customer relationships were built on my personal reputation and trust over years of service. Many of these people had my personal cell number because I was always willing to answer their car questions, even on weekends. Jake's response to my refusal was to send me a threatening email about taking legal action for stealing clients. He claimed I was violating some non-compete agreement, which I never signed, and accused me of actively poaching customers. The truth is, I never reached out to a single client. They found me because Jake's mismanagement was running our family's reputation into the ground. The most shocking development came through Mark, our old parts supplier. He told me Jake has already taken out a $2 million business loan to start his modernization plan. He's talking about turning our family-owned shops into some sort of high-tech franchise operation, complete with a mobile app and automated diagnostic systems. The problem is, he doesn't understand that our business was built on personal relationships and trust, not flashy technology. My mother showed up at my apartment last night crying. Apparently, Dad had to put up their house, the one they've lived in for 35 years, as collateral for Jake's loan. She begged me to come back and help fix things before Jake ruins everything. I refused. This is exactly what I warned them would happen when they handed the business to someone with zero practical experience. The final straw was hearing from Sarah, our former office manager. She called to let me know she'd quit after 20 years because Jake has no idea how to handle even basic operations. Simple things like ordering parts, scheduling repairs, and managing inventory are falling apart. We used to order parts in advance for our regular customers' vehicles based on their service history and typical wear patterns. Now they're just ordering random parts that sit unused while they have to turn away customers because they don't have the parts they actually need. According to Sarah, all 3 of our master mechanics have quit, and most of the experienced technicians are looking for new jobs. The shops are losing money fast, and Jake's solution is to take out more loans to hire consultants who know nothing about the auto repair industry. He's talking about turning the main shop into a coffee bar where customers can wait for their cars, complete with artisanal espresso and free Wi-Fi. Meanwhile, they can't even handle basic oil changes properly. I feel validated but also incredibly sad. This business was my grandfather's legacy, something he built from nothing. I spent 12 years of my life helping it grow into one of the most respected auto repair businesses in our state. Now I have to watch from the sidelines as Jake runs it into the ground with his fancy business school ideas. But I won't be the one to clean up his mess this time. They made their choice when they handed him the keys to the kingdom, and now they have to live with the consequences. I feel validated but also sad. This business was my grandfather's legacy, and I watched it grow into something special. Now I have to watch from the sidelines as Jake runs it into the ground. But I won't be the one to clean up his mess this time. Update 2. 2 months have passed since my last update, and the situation at my old family business has gone from bad to catastrophic. My mother showed up at my apartment last night, something she's never done before. She looked exhausted, with dark circles under her eyes, and broke down crying in my kitchen. She finally told me everything that's been happening, and it's even worse than I imagined. Jake's big franchise plans have completely imploded. The consultants he hired recommended aggressive expansion, convincing him that the auto repair market was ripe for disruption. He took out 3 more loans totaling $5 million to buy 3 more locations. His plan was to create what he called a premium auto care experience, complete with luxury waiting rooms and some kind of artificial intelligence diagnostic system that hasn't even been developed yet. But without experienced staff and proper management, the new locations are hemorrhaging money. The original shops are barely breaking even. The fancy waiting rooms sit empty because customers don't want artisanal coffee, they want their cars fixed properly. The new diagnostic tablets he bought for all locations are useless because the inexperienced mechanics don't know how to interpret the readings. My mother discovered something even more disturbing when she was helping with some paperwork. Jake has been using business funds for personal expenses. He bought himself a $90,000 sports car and moved into a $4,000 per month luxury apartment, claiming it was all necessary for maintaining the right image for potential investors. He's been taking potential franchise buyers to expensive restaurants and putting it all on the company credit card, while the shops can barely afford to buy basic supplies. The real wake-up call came when their house payment bounced last month. Dad finally started questioning Jake's decisions when the bank called about the missed payment. Mom said they had a huge fight about it, the first time she's ever seen Dad criticize Jake's choices. She told Dad they should have listened to me all along, that Jake's ideas were just expensive fantasies. Dad insisted that Jake just needed more time to prove himself, but even he seemed unsure. The stress is taking a toll on both of them. Mom looks 10 years older than when I last saw her. She told me Dad isn't sleeping, spending nights going over the books, trying to figure out how to keep the business afloat. The bank is starting to ask questions about the loans, and they're worried about losing everything. The worst part was hearing about our old customers. Mr. Johnson, who's been coming to us since I was a kid, had his classic Mustang damaged by one of Jake's inexperienced mechanics. The car was a restoration project Mr. Johnson had been working on for years. Now he's threatening to sue. Stories like this are spreading through the community, destroying the reputation we spent decades building. My mother asked if I would consider coming back, not as an employee but as a partner. She said Dad is willing to renegotiate the ownership split, 50-50 between me and Jake. She even showed me a draft of a new ownership agreement Dad had drawn up. But I had to tell her it was too late. The business is now drowning in over $7 million of debt, and Jake's mismanagement has destroyed our reputation in the community. I'm not going to risk my future trying to save a sinking ship. It hurt to say no to my mother. She kept saying that I was the only one who could fix things, that the business needed me. But I reminded her that they had their chance. They chose to hand everything to Jake despite all my warnings. Now they have to live with that decision. Before she left, Mom broke down again and admitted something that shocked me. Apparently, Jake had never actually finished his business degree. He was 2 semesters short of graduating when he dropped out, but he led everyone to believe he had finished. Dad never verified it because, well, Jake was the golden child who could do no wrong. This revelation just confirmed what I'd always known: Jake was all talk and no substance. I feel bad for my parents, I really do. But this is the result of years of favoritism and poor decisions. They enabled Jake's behavior his entire life, and now they're paying the price. I'm doing well in my new job, I've already been promoted to regional service director, and Mr. Wilson is mentoring me on the business side of things. I can't throw away my new success to try to save a business that's beyond saving. Update 3. It's been 6 months since everything started falling apart, and I wanted to give everyone a final update. The family business is officially bankrupt. All 10 locations have been sold at auction to pay off the debts, but even that wasn't enough. My parents lost their house because of the loan Jake took out using it as collateral. 3 generations of hard work, gone in less than a year. The end came faster than anyone expected. The bank finally called in the loans after multiple missed payments. They seized all the business assets, including the expensive diagnostic equipment Jake had bought that was still in boxes. The luxury waiting room furniture, the fancy coffee machines, the tablets, everything was sold off to cover just a fraction of the debt. 2 weeks ago, Jake disappeared completely. He cleared out his luxury apartment in the middle of the night and left no forwarding address. The last thing he did was empty what was left in the business accounts, about $50,000 that was supposed to cover the final payroll for the remaining employees. Several of them are still calling my parents about their missing paychecks. My father finally called me last week. For the first time in my life, he wasn't asking for help or making excuses for Jake. He called to apologize. His voice broke as he admitted that his favoritism toward Jake had blinded him to reality. He said he had taken me for granted because I was always the reliable one, always there to fix things. When he talked about losing my grandfather's legacy, he broke down completely. The worst part was learning about all the people Jake had hurt along the way. Sarah, our former office manager, had to dip into her retirement savings because her last 3 paychecks bounced. Tom, our former head mechanic who'd been with us for 15 years, had to sell his house and move in with his daughter. These were people who had been like family to me, who had helped build the business, and Jake's actions left them struggling. I helped my parents find a small apartment they can afford on what's left of their retirement savings. It's nothing like their old house, but at least it's something. I also hired Sarah at my new workplace. Mr. Wilson created a position for her after I explained the situation. She didn't deserve to lose everything because of Jake's actions. My relationship with my parents has fundamentally changed. We talk occasionally, usually when Mom calls to check in, but the trust is gone. They made their choice long ago when they put everything in Jake's hands, and now they have to live with the consequences. Dad seems to have aged years in just months. Mom tries to keep up a brave face, but I can hear the strain in her voice when we talk. As for Jake, no one has heard directly from him, but he's been active on social media. Some of my old customers sent me screenshots of his posts about starting a tech startup in California. He's calling himself a serial entrepreneur and posting motivational quotes about failing forward. It's like he's completely detached from the destruction he left behind. I'm doing well in my new role. Mr. Wilson recently promoted me to regional manager overseeing 5 locations, and I'm learning the business side of things the right way. I'm even thinking about opening my own shop someday, doing it properly, with my own money and the lessons I've learned from watching my family's business collapse. Last week, I drove past our old main shop, the one my grandfather started. The sign has been taken down, and the building is being converted into a chain restaurant. The sight hit me harder than I expected. I wish I could say I miss my brother or hope for some kind of reconciliation with my parents, but honestly, I don't. Some things can't be fixed once they're broken. All I can do is move forward and build something new for myself.